In the initial years of my tenure as Deputy Chief Commissioner from 2002 to 2004-5, most of the parents would come to inquire about the facilities, the specialist doctors for treatment of their children with disabilities, particularly with autism, intellectual disability, deafness, and so on and so forth. Uh, and also to find special facilities or special schools. Uh, the right, the Persons with Disabilities Act 1995 provided for integrated education and not for inclusive education. Although Article 21A of the Constitution provided for education as fundamental right, then Right to Education Act came, and with those an SSA scheme of Ministry of HRD then. These provided for inclusive education, although it happened in the integrated mode. But the Chief Commissioner's Office organized number of workshops for sensitization uh, and sort of capacity building of the mainstream teachers, principals, education department functionaries on inclusive education. So that created a lot of awareness, and then the parents started, more parents rather started asking for admission of their children with disabilities in mainstream schools, private as well as government schools. Their Persons with Disabilities Act 95 did not apply to the private schools, and therefore we couldn't do much about that. Although we passed orders that a child with disability could not be denied admission. But in government schools, the admission was mandatory. They couldn't deny, but learning did not happen because there were not enough special educators of the category that were required, and the infrastructure wasn't accessible. That slowly happened. The SSA scheme also provided for appointment of 3 special educators in every BRC, that is Block Resource Center, which is not enough for ensuring a quality education to children with disabilities in a block. So many schools, so many children, and so many distances. Then again, the hilly terrain, the tribal areas, the places where the schools were very far off. In a block, it is not possible for a special educator or even 3 special educators to go around. Then special educators of the category required, say for example visual impairment or hearing impairment, intellectual disability, autism, of course autism etc., did not arise, but then not possible. So quality learning did not happen, but the schools which tried to do that, including some of the private schools, could achieve good results. Then with the coming in of the Right to Education Act and the policies, uh, we could, uh, you know, first ask the states to ensure that 3 special educators of 3 categories, intellectual disability, hearing impairment, and the visual impairment, were there. But then there was so much of skewed kind of arrangement, it did not help much. But with the coming in of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016, inclusive education and quality education became mandatory. Failing that, there is provision for penalty. That has provided the Chief Commissioner and the State Commissioners the um, kind of strength to pass orders, to make recommendations, specific recommendations. However, it's a precondition that the Commissioner or the Chief Commissioner have to be very proactive, very passionate about their work. It is not just a job. For example, in Delhi, I could um, pass an order recommending appointment of 7 type of special educators uh, by the government, and make a specific type of special educator to the children who need them. Say if a child with autism is admitted, the special educator of that category should be available. How you make available such special educators, such specific facilities, teaching learning material, would depend upon entirely the state government, but the requirement is that it has to be made available. To that effect, I passed an order for Delhi government in consultation with so many specialists, so many experts on inclusive education. Unfortunately, these guidelines were not there in the with the departments or with the regulators. Uh, Fortunately for us, the matter relating to the appointment of special educators, etc., teacher pupil ratio, went to Supreme Court, where this order of mine was placed before the Supreme Court, and after going through it, Supreme Court said, as I had recommended, that it should be made applicable throughout the country. So that can help the state governments and the professionals, but the need is to create so many special educators, create accessible environment, create teaching learning material, so that these are available to ensure that there is inclusive education, ensuring quality, not simply admitting the children in the school and the class. Some of these NGOs like NAB Delhi, CBM India Trust along with its partners, and many other NGOs have made those experiments, pilots, and ensured that children with blindness, children with hearing impairment, children with various other disabilities could learn science, math, become engineers, become civil servants. So it was possible only with the support, rather additional support provided by these NGOs. Otherwise, with the existing infrastructure, existing human resource in the government schools or private school, it cannot happen. It would not happen. The quality education cannot happen. So the role of UNICEF and other NGOs is here to converse, to create these kind of uh, pilots, models, and then in collaboration with the governments, scale them up. We need to reach to the last person, last child, which is not happening. Say hilly terrain, travel areas, remote areas, these facilities are not there, human resource or otherwise. That can be done by the UNICEF and UN agencies. They can influence, they can come up with good reports, impact studies, situation analysis, and influence the policymakers and the implementers to ensure it. Scaling up is very important, and taking a note of the specific requirements of specific area geographies is also very important. Without that, we cannot ensure fundamental right to every child with disabilities. We have to accept that providing quality inclusive education to children with disabilities needs certainly extra additional funds, additional effort, additional resources. The provision has to be made by the governments for this.